Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tristan Rigby and I am the Commercial Partnerships Manager at CareFirst. I'd firstly like to just apologise about earlier session that was due to be at 11 o'clock. Unfortunately, my broadband router decided to stop working 2 minutes before the webinar, so I do apologise and appreciate you coming to the later session today instead. If there's any of your colleagues that were planning to view this but couldn't, you can see the recording of this webinar by just clicking on the link, the same link that you would have used to register. So it'll be recorded and available from about 5 o'clock today. So if there's anybody else that you think would gain seeing it, or anybody that was due to come on to the 11 o'clock one but couldn't come to the later point, please do share the link. And I'll be happy to send you all at the end of today's presentation as well, just in case you haven't got it on email. So you'll notice that it is a listen-only webinar today, but you can ask questions completely confidentially by just clicking on the questions tab and typing in. Nobody else can see the question that you've typed, and I will be happy to answer those at the end of today's session. Fantastic. I'll make a start. So prior to COVID-19 outbreak, I'm sure that you might already have had team members working from home, or this might be a completely new experience for you and your team. Working from home is definitely a transition for all concerned, and as a manager, you might find it helpful to point your team members in the direction of CareFirst lifestyle type, for example. There's a lot of information of how employees can adapt to changes and how employees can adapt to remote working. But for you as managers, you can call up our 24/7 service, which I'll give you all the details at the end of today's webinar, because I think people forget that our counsellors are also management support trained, and they can give you hints and tips and guidance on your day-to-day role as a manager, and that would of course include advice and guidance on managing a remote team. So if you do need any further assistance following today's webinar, please do give us a call, because the team are there to support managers for those types of coaching, guidance and advice type issues. And the webinar is obviously going to be on tips for managing a remote team, but just to remind you, it's not intended to replace or supersede any guidance available from your HR or senior management teams in relation to your organisation's business contingency plan, and it's intended to offer more helpful suggestions and advice on how to support your team if home working is implemented, especially if it's the first time that an organisation has had to complete home working. So in terms of managing a team remotely, one of the biggest concerns for managers, with the feedback that we're getting on our line, is maintaining a balance between being supportive of people who are working off-site and potentially coming across as a micromanager. So this is particularly difficult as home working removes the ability of the manager to monitor employees within the usual workplace setting. However, what you can do is you can strike a healthy balance by considering such tips as defining goals for your remote workers. So before I did this webinar, I did some research, and apparently 39% of people working from home complete their tasks faster than those in fixed workplaces. However, in order to set them up for success, what we must do as employers is to set clear and measurable goals for obviously your remote teams, because sometimes with remote teams communication can be more challenging and things can get lost in translation. So it's important to be crystal clear about their duties and responsibilities at this time. To begin with, you may recognise that working from home will be new to some, if not many, of your team members, so take time to ask each of them what will help in the transition. Everyone is different. Some people will be happy to use emails to check in with you, while others might feel that a daily video call will help them on track. But it's important to be sensitive to what individuals need while balancing their preferences with the specific needs of the business that you work in. So I think setting expectations as early as possible is key to doing that. You know, explain that you trust everyone to get their work done, just as they would in the office, but you'll need to be able to reach out to them consistently during working hours. Encourage people to take short breaks during the day and have a set time for lunch, just as they would in the workplace, but ask that they let you know if they will be unavailable for longer terms, for longer periods of time, due to conference calls or working on reports, for example. With setting those expectations, you can look at things like creating a schedule. So when will you be online? As I was saying, when do you expect your team to be online? Does your team have set working hours? What are the expectations around responding to emails and calls outside of working hours, for example? Make sure that there's a working rhythm in place. So how will your team receive tasks, and how do you determine the urgent tasks that take priority? And how are these going to be communicated? Because communication is absolutely key. What are the norms in terms of the team interactions? You know, is it a case of video calls or using Slack, for example? How will you communicate throughout the day, and how often will that communication happen? So setting those expectations from that first, at your earliest opportunity, will really set you up for success. And then finally, get feedback from your colleagues. You know, how will you provide feedback, at what frequency? So let them know when you are going to check in with them. Let them know what you expect in their working day. As I said earlier, communication is absolutely key, and regular communication. So setting up regular video or telephone meetings are crucial to help everyone stay on the same page and understand what employees are completing on a daily basis. I know that we started doing it at Care First. Every single day at 9 o'clock, between 9 and half 9, we have a team meeting and we all discuss what we've been up to the day before and what we're going to be doing that day, because then we can share different best practices. We know exactly what all of us are doing and when we're likely to all be available. So it certainly helps within the business practices that we've been completing at Care First. Another thing you can do with communicating on a regular basis is reassuring your team members that you're there for them when they need you, but to reduce anxiety around waiting times. Things like suggesting that anyone contacts you if there is anything urgent that they need support with. If you can schedule a mandatory daily catch-up, like I said, Care First do it, and it's working really well with us. Because working from home can feel lonely, especially for colleagues who live alone. Even a 10-minute check-in can be really, really helpful. And don't make it just about work. You know, be sure to let everyone catch up on the news just as they would in the office. Another tip which I came across was empower your remote colleagues. What I mean by that is remote workers want to be part of the decision making in companies that they work for, and they want to have a word and for that word to be heard. So therefore, employers should empower remote employees to make their own decisions, communicate and implement new ideas just as they would in the office space. And I think to do this, trust is key to getting the job done. With everything that's obviously going on, it can be very hard to stay on top of each of your direct reports productively. Now, if you suspect an employee is underperforming, reach out and ask them how they're doing. They might be feeling anxious about the current state of things, or be having trouble adjusting to working from home. But by being sure you set expectations and deadlines around the work you need from them, they'll then understand how to prioritize their days. And during this time, it's especially important to listen to what your employees need. So if schools are closed and suddenly your employees have had to be a full-time parent in addition to having a full-time job, you might want to work with them to set up a flexible scheduling so they can manage everything being thrown their way. Another thing that you can do regarding this is encourage team members to manage their well-being. So as working from home, maybe in your experience, encourage your team to review Care First, to use the lifestyle site for articles and webinars, to use the tools on the website to take control of that difficult time, and to call for in the moment support. You know, when you call Care First, you're going straight through to a BACP accredited counsellor who can support the individual straight away. So if it's just a quick, even if it's just a quick conversation, you can get that support straight away. You don't have to necessarily be referred for contracted sessions. You can just get that support in the moment and then call back ad hoc as when an employee might feel more comfortably to do so. Check in frequently and be proactive. So as remote teams may feel disconnected, managers who lead remote teams need to make themselves available. So frequent check-ins with remote workers is a great way to help overcome challenges that come with that remote work. So waiting for an employee to speak up could in fact be too late. In fact, many of them will never decide to raise a problem themselves. So frequently ask a simple question such as, how can I help you to be more productive and feel more connected, will really help your employees employees working remotely in your teams. Another tip that I came across, which I think is really valuable in the workplace, is enabling and encouraging knowledge sharing. So knowledge sharing among employees is beneficial for both company success and employee development. For remote teams or employees, fostering a culture of knowledge or sharing is absolutely critical, as they may have less opportunity for in-person knowledge sharing or social learning. Luckily, modern technology solutions make knowledge sharing much easier, even when employees are located on the other side of the country or even the other side of the world. So whether you're encouraging your team by phone or video conference, this can certainly relieve, you know, feelings of stress and isolation, and reassure people that they're still part of a team. And as I say, to do that, it's really important to choose the right communication tool. So we know that we're lucky that there's tools designed to overcome some of the communication barriers that remote work brings to organisations, but those innovations can simplify remote communication and team collaboration, and have definitely distributed teams just as much of an opportunity to be engaged as teams who would spend their days working between the same four walls. So the key here is to make it as easy as possible for employees to keep up with the latest company updates and find all the materials and information they need without having to look for it. So again, at Care First, we have a shared folder just for COVID, where we share all the webinars that we're doing, where we're sharing all the articles that we're doing, where there's any sort of useful feedback that we've had. We share that all together so we can regularly look at exactly what's going on in the organisation, and in addition to that, we can discuss that at our daily call in the morning. So I'm finding, you know, really does help using those communication tools. Something to bear in mind when choosing the right communication tool is asking team members to keep their office diaries up to date and give them sight of yours where possible, because it can feel very unsettling not to be able to get hold of a colleague about an urgent matter, but knowing they're otherwise engaged in work can ease concerns about their availability. Another thing is that you could potentially do is recognise the limitations that home working may present. So while your organisation will no doubt ensure that key tasks can be completed by colleagues working from home, acknowledge that there may be tasks that cannot be completed as they usually would due to technological or logistical restrictions. We certainly found that with some of the drives that we can't access remotely at Care First. So it's really making sure recognizing those limitations at times like these, and discuss it with your employee to see if there is a solution in looking at achieving the same objective using a different means. The final tip that I wanted to end on was forget about email conversations. I know it is people's favorite means of communication sometimes, but with remote communication it can definitely distort the normal pace of employee conversations. I mean, I know that it's happened to me. How many times have you written an email and felt concerned about how it would land and if someone will read it or not? Email should not just be the primary way of internal communications, as there are now so many fantastic tools that offer instant communication in which information does not get buried. So making time for FaceTime is really, really important. So, while your HR software's employee profiles may help, if you have access to employee profiles at your organisation to put faces to names, nothing beats face-to-face communication when establishing a working relationship. So when meetings can't be scheduled, regularly check in with remote workers over Skype, Google Hangout, Zoom, or any other video conference platform, because sometimes hopping just on that 5-minute call can save you hours of back and forth over email or Slack. Get personal as well. So your chat application's little green available dots makes for a nice indicator of whether an employee is at their screen or on a break, but it also makes you available for questions, clarifications, or just friendly chatter. Make sure that every time you reach out to your team, it isn't just to ask them to do something or check in on progress. Regularly reach out to ask how they're doing, what they've had, it could be what have they got planned for the weekend. It helps show you're thinking of them and care about their well-being in and out of the office. And just as a reminder of that, the Care First service is there to support your employees' health and well-being. We understand the issues that are being raised following COVID, and we know that it's a time where our service needs to be reminded in organisations more than ever. So please do give them the free phone number. Obviously, we're speaking to lots of organisations today, so I didn't want to just put one phone number on there. Please just refer back to your service manager or the promotional material that we would have sent you for your phone number, and point people to the lifestyle site. As I said at the very beginning of today's webinar, there's some fantastic resources on the lifestyle site. So if you're finding that your team is struggling with remote working, there's some great articles on the lifestyle site. Obviously, I'll record today's webinar and put the link on the lifestyle site, but also you can, as I said before, click on the link at about 5 o'clock today, ongoing, and you can share that link and view today's session. So I hope that's been useful today. As I said, anybody's got any questions at all, please do type them in the questions tab, and I will answer them for you. So somebody has asked, has commented saying, one thing we've implemented in our team is to jointly work on an activity, as this encourages collaboration and use of our IT facilities. Yeah, that's a fantastic point and a fantastic example. I think that really helps with motivating the team, that still get that team morale together. So if you've got something that works where you can work on the activity at the same time, as you've said, it definitely does encourage collaboration and makes you feel counted in the work that you're doing. So yeah, fantastic point. Thank you very much for that. Any further questions at all? Okay, we have another comment here. One thing we've done is check in and check out, 10 minutes at the start and end of the day to mentally sign in and out of work. Again, a fantastic suggestion. That really is brilliant. Taking that time out of the working day, just gives you that rest that you need, that breather that you need, because it is tough. It's very tough working from home, having, you know, children, animals, not being able to rely on family members and friends to support you. We are in difficult times. If there's anything that you can do where you can put that time aside to mentally sign in, sign out, is a really fantastic idea. So no, thank you very much for sharing that. Very much. Somebody's said that it's very useful today. Again, if any questions come up, please email either info@care-first.co.uk, but email me personally if you do have any questions regarding today's webinar. My email address is Tristan, spelled Tristan .rigby, which is RIGBY, at care-first.co.uk. Fantastic. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. So as I say, please contact me if you do have some questions later on, and the presentation recording will be available from 5 o'clock today. Thank you very much. Take care now and have a lovely weekend. Thank you.